On this edition of Mississippi Roads, we're visiting Oxford, home of Ole Miss, and the impressive Gertrude C. Ford Performing Arts Complex, where an operatic version of Shakespeare's Hamlet recently premiered. Then we'll revisit a classic of a very different sort when we remember Oxford's iconic watering hole, the Hoka. Then we'll take a look at vinyl record enthusiasts who are preserving the old-fashioned way of listening to music.
Support for the arts segment of Mississippi Roads comes from the Mississippi Arts Commission, whose mission is to be a catalyst for the arts and creativity in Mississippi. Information available at www.arts.ms.gov.
Mississippi Roads is made possible in part by the generous support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Down Mississippi Road.
Hi, welcome back to Mississippi Roads. I'm your host, Walt Grayson. This week, we're coming to you from the city of Oxford. Right now, we're on the campus of Ole Miss in Oxford, and we're standing on the lawn in front of the Gertrude C. Ford Center for the Performing Arts. Now, this impressive complex has been a cultural anchor for Oxford since it opened in 2003. Gertrude C. Ford was an artist and philanthropist and spent her life as a cultural explorer. She also had a keen interest in Shakespeare's plays, as well as in Shakespeare's true identity. So it's very fitting that the world premiere of the opera Hamlet debuted here in 2015. Let's take a look. University of Mississippi alum Nancy Vandevate is a world-renowned, prolific opera composer. She and Julia Aubrey, the director of opera theater at Ole Miss, came together recently to produce an original rendition of William Shakespeare's Hamlet. After 2 years of planning and writing, a professional cast graced the stage of the Gertrude C. Ford Center for Performing Arts in Oxford, Mississippi.
Olivia, got everything? 2 years ago, or maybe even more, I went to Vienna to visit with Nancy to just talk about the possibility and just to see were the scores ready and the kind of cast it would take and really just get into the nitty-gritty of making something like this happen. So really 2 years. And then when we added the Prague trip, that really took a lot of organization. I spent really the first year just trying to get Prague in place. And then the second year I thought, oh yes, I have to do a world premiere here first.
And I'm so grateful for this performance because new operas being performed is very difficult anywhere, and more in the United States now. We have less opera than we used to. Well, I think it's immensely valuable that this is being presented at a university too, because then people experience it in a different context than just going to the opera house. For instance, this is a shorter version, 20 minutes shorter than the original, because it was too long. When you start out, you don't know how long it's going to take, and you know the play takes 6.5 hours if the whole thing is said, spoken, and it takes much longer to sing than to speak. But you have to give the performance leeway I mean, the singers want to hang on to their high notes, you know. Do you know the tenor that never didn't want to hang on to his high C?
Horrible, 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 horrible. And if thou hast nature in thee, let not the royal pen of Denmark be a couch for himself. Are the actors ready?
Yes, my lord, they wait for you.
Come, my dear Hamlet, sit by me.
No, dear mother, here is metal more attractive.
People ask me how you pick a play. That's a very intuitive thing. I finally said to a student, you know, how do you pick a color when you buy clothes? Or pick a menu when you go into a restaurant? That's your personal taste, and you can't really say why it's the way it is. It's your personality.
And skilled, the perfect opportunity.
Him in the garden for his estate. His name is Gonzago. The story is current.
For me, in the last 20 years, is to not have people smile when you say Mississippi and opera at the same time, and they don't anymore. I mean, we've made a point of being out across the nation, mostly through National Opera Association, that we can do opera in Mississippi. We have great singers that have come out of Mississippi. We're still producing great singers in Mississippi.
Who comes here? Your lordship is very welcome back in Denmark.
I humbly thank you, sir.
People feel at home in Oxford. I think people leave Mississippi to go to school, and then they'll come back and it's always home. So I think the character Hamlet sort of has like a coming home within the play.
There's an interactive element with music theater. The other person brings a personality, they bring a setting to it. Every performance will be not by the same crew, but every presentation by different companies will be different, and I find that very exciting.
The king is to blame.
And venom to thy work.
My original mind, I had the lights go out and there are the 4 dead bodies on the stage and you have this sad little chord on the end. But what Julia's done is much better.
There ends a noble life. Good night, sweet prince. Good night.
This trip to Prague, which nobody's done here before, is another aspect of that. They're very jazzed about being able to take this production to Europe, which is, I said earlier, in Prague, opera there is like SEC football here, to give them sort of some sense of how important is it opera? Yeah, it's a lot. It's very important there.
After hours spent condensing the script, Van de Weyt wrote an opera that came to life with Aubrey's eye for visual detail and performance. The two worked together and brought the legendary tale of Hamlet to a Mississippi audience that was honored to witness the opera's world premiere. And that acted as a springboard for taking the opera across seas, making Mississippi the home of yet another artful classic. The city of Oxford has been touted as the cultural mecca of the South. Take a look at the activity around the square and you can see the town's interest in the arts and the culture reflected here. The well-known literary luminaries are joined by culinary artists, painters, sculptors, of course the ever-changing student population, to give Oxford an air of cultural vitality unparalleled in our state. Here on the square, people browse specialty boutiques, but they can also shop at the South's oldest documented store. Nelson started as a trading post in 1839 and has operated continuously since then. In fact, even during the Depression, when many of the banks closed, Nelson's acted as a surrogate bank, cashing paychecks for university employees and others. Now, there's one iconic institution that used to be here in Oxford that's no longer here, much to the dismay of the college students and the local residents, and that's the Hoka. It was a restaurant, a bar, a film house, just kind of a local gathering place. It was in operation from 1976 up until 1995. Now here's a nostalgic look back at the Hoka in the Mississippi Roads piece we did back in 1991.
Nestled in beautiful downtown Oxford, the Hoka, a combination arts theater / restaurant, offers a relaxing atmosphere. Owner Ron Shapiro.
I would have to say that it started off as a cotton warehouse. This whole area was a gin, and they would bring the cotton in here to be stored. So it was never ginned in here, it was just stored in here. And when I came, it was just a tin building. And it had nothing on the inside, and we found an abandoned barn. One of our original partners found an abandoned barn in Holly Springs, 30 miles from here, and we brought that barn wood in, and all the walls are covered with barn wood that is well over 100 years old. And then from there, we just started putting up what we thought was kind of interesting and what people thought was interesting on the walls. And, you know, that's pretty much what it was. We found our theater seats were from old churches. We found old theater seats. And, you know, we're constantly finding new seats from old theaters that go out of business or something. They're, I don't think we've ever bought anything in here that's new. I just don't think that it would, the yin-yang would not work if we put something new in here or something. It just, so, you know, everything is, my whole belief is recycling anyway. And, it, you know, it just, everything that's come along is just fit. You never know what someone's going to bring in. Someone brought me a great Isaac Hayes poster the other day, you know, and we've just been lucky that way, that what people bestow upon us. The Hoka started when I arrived here from Wyoming in 1975, and I was planning on just trying to write when I moved here, but I was upset with the amount of available movies being shown. I had done theaters before out in the West, and I could only take it for about a year, and then I opened up the Hoka with 4 friends of mine that I had met down here. And we named the Hoka for a Chickasaw Indian princess that used to own half of Lafayette County. I was very interested, having come from Wyoming, I was very interested in Native American awareness, and it seemed like just a perfect name. A lot of things were being named for Faulkner at the time. And I just thought it would be good to get back to what the original roots of this area was, and came up with the name Hoka. I pretty much scan newspapers, and word of mouth, I try to find out movies that are showing in Austin and Berkeley and Boston. I try to offer here with what I think are the hipper college campuses around the country, what they're showing. Some people think that we just are the only theater in the world that shows a certain movie, but it's actually movies that show in Cambridge, let's say. And that's what I've always tried to do, is try to expose people to something they hadn't seen otherwise, and movies that I think that should be seen more than on a 21-inch TV screen, that I think should be seen beyond life size. And that's always been, if I have a goal, it's to show certain movies in a theater setting that I think people would really enjoy being entertained by, where there's not a phone ringing, where a neighbor doesn't come next door and possibly interrupt them. I want people to see certain things uninterrupted. Most films have either 5 or 6 reels, and each reel of this is 15 or 20 minutes of film. Now, it used to be that you'd have 2 projectors, and you'd show 15 minutes of one, and then the cue marks would come up, and you'd be up here and you'd switch to the other ones. Well, now we've caught up with the 80s, and we've got a thing here where we put all of the movie on one reel. It takes us about an hour. We splice it together, and then we only need one projector instead of 2, which we used to have. And the film, it's perfect for the audience, because the film, there's hardly ever an interruption. A lot of people have told me, and actually a number of people have said this, that when they walk in here, they just know that they can relax. They know that it's no jive. Nothing's expected of them, just to be themselves, and it just has that atmosphere. And it wasn't anything that we created on purpose. It just evolved, because we just put posters on the walls and just kind of anything. And anything is put up here, and anyone is allowed to come up and put anything up here. It's kind of the largest bulletin board in Mississippi, actually, and it's certainly a cheap way to decorate. It started as a movie theater. In fact, we were a movie theater for 6 years before we added the cafe. I came up with the idea of doing the cafe when everybody came up with the idea of getting a VCR in their house, and I knew that the movie thing was going to be hurt drastically, and I had always wanted to be in the food business anyway. I grew up in St. Louis, and there was always a lot of coffee houses that we hung out at, and I had always wanted to have something to do with coffee house deli type situation, because those are some of the fond memories of my childhood. And I just thought that the idea of food and movies went well together, and especially since we show many offbeat movies, and it gives people a chance to come and sit down and talk about the movies afterwards. And we do almost everything we serve is from scratch. So that's how we differ from a lot of places. When people do come in here, the word they use to be safe, they always look around and use the word interesting. And I think that this was an old abandoned cotton warehouse, and it could use a lot of painting up and everything, which I have never done. And I think it's almost kind of neat that it is so deteriorating on the outside, but then people come in here and see some of the great European or Japanese classic movies, and eat some of the tastiest food they've ever had. I think it's, even though I'm planning to really fix the outside within the next couple of months, I think it's just, I kind of like the idea that it almost looks that bad. I think it's my mother was here recently, and she said that if I didn't own this place, she would never come in here. So it definitely needs a fixing up, but I'm extremely proud of it. And I think the Hoka kind of looks kind of like I do. Kind of run down, but functional, and hopefully interesting.
Well, you can't come to Oxford without talking about this guy, Nobel laureate William Faulkner, who is not only a towering presence in Mississippi literature, but a towering presence in world literature. And he still cast a pretty big shadow on the town of Oxford. And across the way over here is Square Books. Now, Square Books wasn't here when Faulkner was here, but today it's known nationwide for nurturing new generations of writers. Square Books opened its doors in 1979 and soon began hosting readings by nationally acclaimed writers. Now, many people declared the end of printed books as technology changed and e-readers became more popular, but Square Books proves that, well, to butcher a quote from Mark Twain, the reports of the death of printed books were greatly exaggerated. There's another form of media that some people thought had gone the way of the dinosaur, and that's vinyl records. But there's a lot of vinyl enthusiasts around the state who want us to know that's not the case. Matter of fact, there's a vinyl shop right here in Oxford. Let's pop in and take a look.
Almost from the get-go, I wanted the feeling of when you walked into the store to immediately know you're dealing with a real record store. To see nothing but records and walk in and say, wow, this is a record store. This is what the record store in your mind it looks like. I think the idea behind the End of All Music is that it's curated in as such where it not only reflects my taste in music, but I think it reflects the region's taste and my customer's taste. You can come into the End of All Music and find something you weren't expecting, but you also kind of know what it's going to be. You're not just like walking in blind. It's always interesting to see what kind of records people are buying. You can't ever judge a customer by what they look like when they walk in. I get a lot of people saying, oh man, you have the dream job, and I have a hard time disagreeing with them. It hasn't felt like work yet. When we first opened, I got a lot of questions. Do you have any heavy metal? Do you have any metal, like any dark metal or black metal? And I was just at loss. I was like, no, I never expected anyone not only ask me for that, but I don't know anything about it. I never in a million years would have thought there would be such an atmosphere in Oxford for that kind of music. And we finally just started stocking some of that stuff, and it's just been flying off the shelves. I can't even barely keep it in stock, which is another reason I think every town needs a good record store.
From Oxford, our journey takes us to Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
T-Bone's been open since '99. We're kind of nestled in a nice area between the university and downtown, and there's nowhere I'd rather be. We got the best of both worlds. We got a lovely downtown, and we got the university, and we get some of everybody here. That's the best thing about this shop is you truly get a mixture of everyone. Probably about 6 years ago, we had some office space we had not taken advantage of. So we started out with a small cafe. You know, we really wanted to try to bring another unique thing to town, to Hattiesburg, that wasn't, we didn't see anywhere else, and that when you came here, you know, hopefully it stuck out in your head, you know, this is a piece of Hattiesburg. Really, within the last 6 years, you've seen new vinyl particularly start to take off. I was concerned it was a fad, you know, or that it would be a bubble that would burst, you know, or that the industry itself would find some way to mess it up. With vinyl, though, I think it's here to stay, and it's kind of magic, you know. A diamond needle goes through these grooves, and this amazing sound comes through, you know. In all the business aspects, you know, you have to roll that back and remember at the end of the day, we're all fans of music. Obviously, Mississippi has such a rich history in music, and it's great to see that it still goes on, and we're fortunate to have a lot of great talented artists here in Hattiesburg, as well as throughout the state. We love doing in-store performances. It's one of my favorite things in the world. It's so great for artists and so great for us. It's a win-win. We try to do as many as we possibly can.
She's my Mississippi country girl, from down by the banks of the muddy pearl. Nothing in a world like a Mississippi country girl. Raised on the cornbread and black-eyed peas, she says, ma'am, thank you and please. Nothing in a world like a Mississippi country girl.
We try to be sages in here a little bit and guide people to new things, you know. We try to help you out. And you know, that you go home, you listen to it, you like it, you love it, and it made a difference in your life, or at least your day. You know, I think while it always shifts, I think independent record shops are here to stay. And I do think you probably have to be a little more savvy than you used to be to run them. And in some cases diversify like we have with the cafe. But I'm proud to say we're still here, and we got plans of going nowhere.
From Hattiesburg, our excursion led to Meridian, Mississippi.
Meridian Underground Music was an idea that we come up with back when we had a magazine called Meridian Underground Magazine, which we started back in '94. We decided, hey, we'd take a different direction, and we opened up Meridian Underground Music in February of 1996. Back when we started, we were just flying by the seat of our pants, I guess you could say. We added skateboards. We actually have our own brand, a Meridian Underground Music brand of skateboards. Having skate stuff in the music store just seemed to make sense because people that skate also listen to music. Some of them skate and they play instruments, so we tried to carry the whole gamut of everything that was involved in that lifestyle. I think that vinyl is here to stay. Vinyl's been around since before I was born, and I don't see it going anywhere. I just think it's going to be around for a long, long time.
That's about all the time we have for a visit to the city of Oxford. If you'd like any information about anything you've seen in the show, contact us at mpbonline.org/Mississippi Roads, or like our Mississippi Public Broadcasting Facebook page. Till next time, I'm Walt Grayson. I'll be seeing you, Mississippi Roads.
Mississippi Roads is made possible in part by the generous support of viewers like you. Thank you.